รายการต่อไปนี้เป็นรายการทั่วไปสามารถรับชมได้ทุกวัย
สนับสนุนโดยแลกเงินด้วยบัตรเครดิตกสิกรไทยเที่ยวก่อนจ่ายที่หลังไม่มีค่าธรรมเนียมผ่อนชำระได้จากธนาคารกสิกรไทย
สวัสดีค่ะหากพูดถึงเว็บไซต์อีคอมเมิร์ซที่กำลังมาแรงสุดๆในตอนนี้เชื่อว่าหลายท่านก็คงนึกถึงชื่อของอาลีบาบารวมถึงชื่อของแจ็คหม่าผู้ก่อตั้งด้วยนะคะมองเรามองโลกมีโอกาสพูดคุยกับคุณพอเตอร์แอริสแมนอดีตผู้บริหารของอาลีบาบาหนึ่งในชาวต่างชาติไม่กี่คนที่บุกเบิกอาลีบาบามาพร้อมกับแจ็คหม่าค่ะเราจะไปย้อนดูประวัติของอาลีบาบาตั้งแต่เป็นบริษัทเกิดใหม่ความท้าทายที่ต้องเจอจนกระทั่งวันนี้กลายเป็นบริษัทยักษ์ใหญ่ระดับโลกค่ะอาลีบาบาก่อตั้งขึ้นในปี 1999 โดยแจ็คหม่าอดีตครูสอนภาษาอังกฤษและเพื่อนอีก 17 คนด้วยวิสัยทัศน์ที่ต้องการสร้างธุรกิจอีคอมเมิร์ซที่เป็นเว็บไซต์ขายส่งเพื่อเป็นช่องทางให้โรงงานต่างๆในจีนส่งออกสินค้าไปยังต่างประเทศได้อาลีบาบาต้องต่อสู้ฝ่าฟันกับทั้งเว็บไซต์ยักษ์ใหญ่จากอเมริกาอย่าง Yahoo และ eBay รวมถึงกฎระเบียบและสภาพแวดล้อมที่ไม่ได้เอื้อต่อการทำธุรกิจอีคอมเมิร์ซของจีนจนกระทั่งในปี 2014 Alibaba Group ได้ทำสถิติการขายหุ้นให้นักลงทุนครั้งแรกด้วยมูลค่ามหาศาลถึง 25,000 ล้านเหรียญสหรัฐโดยเป็นมูลค่าสูงที่สุดอย่างไม่เคยมีมาก่อนมากกว่ามูลค่าการลงทุนของ Google Facebook และ Twitter รวมกันเสียอีกความสำเร็จของอาลีบาบาจึงเป็นที่ประจักษ์ไม่เพียงแค่ในประเทศจีนเท่านั้นแต่ถือเป็นบริษัทที่ประสบความสำเร็จระดับโลกเลยทีเดียวพอเตอร์เอริสแมนชาวอเมริกันเป็นหนึ่งในชาวต่างชาติเพียงไม่กี่คนที่ได้ร่วมบุกเบิกอาลีบาบาร่วมกับแจ็คหม่าเอริสแมนเข้าทำงานที่อาลีบาบาในปี 2000 ในตำแหน่งรองประธานกรรมการของ Alibaba.com และ Alibaba Group รับผิดชอบการปฏิบัติการของเว็บไซต์ด้านต่างประเทศและการตลาดต่างประเทศหลังจากที่ไอริสแมนออกจากอาลีบาบาในปี 2008 เขาได้ผลิตภาพยนตร์สารคดี Crocodile in the Yangtze The Alibaba Story ซึ่งเป็นเรื่องราวเกี่ยวกับการเติบโตของธุรกิจอาลีบาบาโดยเป็นสารคดีที่ได้รับรางวัลมากมายนอกจากนั้นเขายังเขียนหนังสือ Alibaba's World ซึ่งมีการแปลเป็นภาษาไทยในชื่ออาลีบาบามังกรปฏิวัติโลกเพื่อถ่ายทอดเรื่องราวของอาลีบาบาเช่นกันปัจจุบันเอริสแมนเป็นที่ปรึกษาให้กับบริษัทอีคอมเมิร์ซในแอฟริกาเอเชียและลาตินอเมริกา
Porter, let's go back in the beginning. How did you get to join Alibaba?
Sure. So I was working in Beijing in 2000, and I was helping a lot of American internet companies come into the China market. I was working for an advertising company called Ogilvy and Mather. And then I always wanted to join a startup, and a friend told me that there was a school teacher in the town of Hangzhou who had just started a company called Alibaba, and he wanted it to be a global company, but growing from China to the rest of the world. And they were looking for someone with my skill set. So I went to Shanghai and I met Jack Ma, the founder of Alibaba, and I was just I got hooked.
那么阿里巴巴我们将做成怎么样？我想，从黄页的时候我就提过，黄页所要瞄准的对象不是国内战略，而是国际战略。我们所有的竞争对手不在于中国，而在于美国的硅谷。如果说第一，我们把阿里巴巴定位，就把它作为国际战略，我们不要把它定位是国内战略。
You were impressed by him.
I was impressed by him, his team, their dream. You know, I would say he and his team at that time were kind of a ragtag team of teachers and dreamers. They didn't seem so professional, but I liked the spirit they had. They had a real startup spirit, and they had a lot of ideals and this idea of how they wanted to sort of change the world through commerce. And I thought, even if they fail, I'll at least have a fun time working with these people.
During the beginning period, what were the main challenges?
The main challenge, I think the first one was getting people to even know about our website. You know, when you're trying to build a global company from China, it's really tough to get the word out. So I traveled with the founder, Jack Ma, all around the world, going to conferences, talking to different people, trying to spread the word of e-commerce. But then the second big challenge was inside China. And that challenge was that all of our customers were small, medium-sized businesses that didn't even know what the internet was. So they didn't really trust you. They didn't all catch why the internet was so important. So in China, we had to spend a lot of time convincing people that the internet really was the future.
How widespread is internet usage in China at that time?
At that time, well, it was fascinating. It was only less than maybe 10 million people. So less than 1% of the population was using the internet. And in fact, the government in China still wasn't sure how much they'd allow of the internet. And so when we told people we were trying to build an e-commerce company, people said, okay, in the US you got Amazon, you got eBay. Of course, those can be successful. But in China, you could never do e-commerce. It'll never work here.
我想占领海外的市场，这是很重要。就是说，等到有这么一天，中国的我们所有的电脑打开以后，里面都是外国的东西。你打开电脑，发现满天遍地的都是外国的东西，这时候后悔就来不及。失败了也无所谓，我至少把一个概念告诉了别人。我不成功，会有人成功的。但首先一点，我希望中国人早点成功，不要再拖下去。
Now, during the formation period of Alibaba, I mean, other big global companies like Yahoo, eBay, Amazon are also formed more or less during the same period. So, from Alibaba's perspective, are those companies competitors as well, right from the beginning?
Yeah, back in 1999, 2000, when Alibaba was getting started, there were some idols, I think. So if you look at the US, at the time Yahoo was the big famous company. They were the one everyone talked about, the same way people talk about Facebook right now. And in e-commerce, it was Amazon and eBay. We looked at those folks more as inspiration. They hadn't even dreamed of coming to China yet because I think they looked at the numbers, it just wasn't interesting. But the interesting thing about Alibaba's story, a lot of people don't realize, is that Alibaba started as an import-export marketplace and as a global business. So we had this business-to-business marketplace, and our competitors then were huge multi-billion-dollar companies named Ariba, Commerce One. They had billions of dollars in funding. So from day one, the competition really was global internet companies. But it just so happened that Alibaba outlasted all these Western competitors at the global business-to-business market.
我们要学会硅谷人的一种拼劲。如果说我们是早上8点钟下班，8点钟上班，5点钟下班，这个不是搞高科技啊，这个绝对不是我们阿里巴巴能成功。如果说我们有这种精神，反正我上班了，8点钟上班，5点钟下班了 ，OK， 赶紧去其他地方。人家美国人强就强他的硬件，强就强他的系统建设，这一方面确实比你高。但是玩信息玩软的，中国人的脑袋绝不比你们差。我们在座的所有的人的脑袋绝不比你们差。这就是我们敢跟美国人斗的劲。
อาลีบาบาเปรียบเสมือนแจ็คผู้ฆ่ายักษ์แห่งแวดวง .com ในปี 2005 อาลีบาบาซื้อกิจการ Yahoo ในประเทศจีนและในปลายปี 2006 eBay ซึ่งถูกเปรียบเป็นฉลามในมหาสมุทรต้องปิดเว็บไซต์ของตัวเองในจีนหลังจากพ่ายแพ้ในการต่อสู้อันดุเดือดกับอาลีบาบาที่เปรียบตัวเองเป็นจระเข้แห่งแม่น้ำแยงซีปัจจุบันอาลีบาบากรุ๊ปได้ดำเนินธุรกิจอีคอมเมิร์ซหลายอย่างโดยมีทั้งเท้าเป่า .com เว็บไซต์ขายปลีกที่ใหญ่ที่สุดในจีนซึ่งสามารถแย่งตลาดของ eBay ได้ภายใน 3 ปี Tmall.com เว็บไซต์ช้อปปิ้งที่รวมแบรนด์ดังๆอันดับต้นๆของจีนไว้และ Alipay ผู้ให้บริการชำระเงินออนไลน์แก่บุคคลที่ 3 ที่ใหญ่ที่สุดในโลก
What are some of the major decisions that Jack Ma and the top executives made Alibaba into a successful company as it is today?
Number one is he was very innovative and came up with a lot of innovative ideas. Two, he focused on the customers. But his greatest talent because he didn't have business experience. His greatest talent was bringing together a team of ordinary people with no business background and having them work really, really well as a team. And so one of the lessons I think of Alibaba's experience is that you can take on the giants if you build a team that works really, really well. And so a lot of the 18 co-founders that started Alibaba with Jack, a lot of them are still in the company, and maybe they started their career as a hotel desk clerk or as an English teacher, and some of them were Jack Ma's English students.
What are some mistakes that can be good lessons for other companies to learn from Alibaba?
Our assumption was that if you want to build a global internet company, you have to be based in Silicon Valley, because there was no example of a global internet company being based anywhere else at the time. And so we moved our main technical operations to Silicon Valley, and the next thing we knew is our company was in chaos. The teams in the US and China weren't communicating well. Actually, the people in Silicon Valley didn't understand the small, medium-sized businesses in China. An important lesson we learned from that is after we laid people off, and I talk about in my book how tough it was to do that, we realized, you know what, there's no reason we couldn't build a global company from China, and there's no reason we couldn't build a global company from Hangzhou, which was not even a main city of China. The lesson I would say that I learned from the Alibaba experience, you can build a global internet company from anywhere now. Doesn't matter where you're located.
公司另外一个重大的决定是 Alibaba.com 全面迁往美国，把 Custom Service、Ad Team 留在中国 ，Engineering、Production 全部是在美国生产。所以为了主要这个战略目标是，我们要把 Alibaba.com 建成世界一流站点。That's the decision we have to do. 也许决策是错误的。但是我永远记住一点 ：a wrong decision is better than no decision at internet time.
Do you think Alibaba has become an unbeatable company because it has been such a big company right now?
I don't think so, actually. I think that, Jack Ma would always warn us, so when everything seemed great, that's the time to be most worried. And so, he used to quote the Intel CEO who said, only the paranoid survive. So we saw, as an underdog, we beat companies that no one thought would ever decline. Tech companies, all it takes is a year of losing your way, and the next person or the next company will come up and take away the title from you. So they need to do a lot to continue to hold on to what they're doing. And they need to fight against the issue. Once you're big, actually that's when companies are the most weak because they're not as flexible as a young startup that can do everything from scratch.
They called him Crazy Jack. But for 8 wild years, I called this former English teacher Boss.
Hey, Jack, you're here.
You also produced a documentary about Alibaba.
Right.
What do you want to portray in the documentary?
The idea, when I left Alibaba, I had the dream of sort of telling the story and sharing it with entrepreneurs because I thought I had learned a lot from watching Alibaba, and I thought this would be a fun way to sort of give back while traveling the world, talking about the experience. And the thing that sort of drove me, it kept me up at 5 in the morning editing the video as I made it. I just wanted to share this sort of dream with people and show that, like I said, you can build a global company from anywhere. You can even be a school teacher or someone from a humble background with no business experience and following the sort of right principles, build a great company. And I wanted to show how Alibaba did it, the successes that Alibaba had, but also the mistakes. And my main thing was to sort of inspire entrepreneurs and also students.
So did you film right from day one when you work with them?
Well, here's what's funny with Alibaba is Jack Ma, he's kind of an interesting guy. He's even a little bit funny looking in China, some people think. And so cameras followed him all the time. And so the interesting thing, my original plan is I wanted to write a book, But at that time, back in 2008, I couldn't find a publisher. So I said, well, I'll tell the story through video. And I knew that there was 200 hours of video that had captured Jack Ma, that had captured Alibaba, and some of it had captured me and Jack Ma together.
It's funny how he actually said he is not happy being the richest man in China.
When you talk to Jack Ma and you talk to the co-founders of Alibaba, I saw some of them about a year and a half ago. And it's funny, the times that they think are the happiest times are the times when they're all playing cards, after a long day of work, when they're making, like $50 a month or whatever, and with the big dreams. Because now a lot of them, I think they stay on because they've built this thing that's so important to China that they feel they need to be there just out of responsibility. So I think an important thing for entrepreneurs to learn or students is that reaching the destination is not as fun sometimes as the whole ride itself. And so I think those times when you have the dreams, those can be just as exciting as achieving them.
จากวันที่อาลีบาบาเริ่มต้นในปี 1999 จำนวนผู้ใช้อินเทอร์เน็ตในจีนมีน้อยกว่า 10 ล้านคน น้อยกว่า 1% ของประชากรทั้งหมด การซื้อขายออนไลน์แทบไม่มีเลย มาวันนี้ประชากรจีนกว่า 600 ล้านคนใช้อินเทอร์เน็ต มูลค่าการซื้อขายออนไลน์ถือเป็น 10% ของการค้าปลีกของประเทศ และตลาดอีคอมเมิร์ซจีนมีการแข่งขันที่ดุเดือดขึ้น นอกจากอาลีบาบาแล้วผู้เล่นคนสำคัญคือ Tencent และไปตู้
As the internet starts to get more widespread in China and around the world as well, how has the Chinese market changed over time?
I think as the Chinese market has matured, it's really the exciting thing is that it's grown now to more than about half the Chinese population. So, about 600 million people now using the internet compared to when we got started with only 10 million. So the size has gotten really big. It's finally you no longer have to convince people to move their businesses online. Everyone gets that. But it's gotten more competitive, but what it's doing is bringing out more ideas. And so I tell people in the US, if you want to understand e-commerce in the last 20 years, study the US companies, Amazon and eBay. If you want to understand e-commerce in the next 20 years, look at the China market because totally new ways of business are being developed there. And it's an exciting laboratory for e-commerce innovation. Whereas some people might have an idea that businesses in China don't innovate, that they only imitate. Actually, my experience was very different from what I saw. I think the young people in China, the entrepreneurs, are incredibly innovative. So it's a great window to the future of e-commerce.
What are the new ways of doing business that you mentioned just now?
For example, people now use their phones as a wallet. Like if they go to a restaurant and they want to split the bill between 6 people, all they do is bring out their mobile phone and go on Alipay, and there's a feature on there where you automatically split the bill between 6 people and it pays the bill on the spot. When I tell my friends in the US this, they can't believe it. We still give a credit card. Everyone puts 6 credit cards into the thing and then the cashier has to do all that. So that's one example. I think another way is that people no longer even want to have physical shops in a lot of the times. They can just build an online shop digitally. So a lot of the shopping malls in China, they don't have stores anymore. They have food courts because people just go directly online to buy. Yeah.
Is it also true that prices stated on the website, you can actually negotiate with the seller?
Right. Yeah, this is one of the reasons I think that, for example, eBay, an auction site, didn't do well in China. Even major brands on Tmall, the big Alibaba's big shopping mall online, even major brands, you can get discounts, maybe sometimes 5%, 10% by negotiating with the brand itself.
Is Baidu in China somehow also a competitor of Alibaba?
Well, when you look at the China market, the top, there's Baidu, Tencent, Alibaba, they call these BAT companies, BAT. they're always clashing with each other. So this year might be a war. When I was at Alibaba and Baidu had a war. And then it was Tencent Alibaba having a war. And now it's Alibaba and Jingdong. It's a really ferocious, vicious thing. But Baidu and Alibaba, yeah, they kind of compete with each other. An interesting thing, Alibaba blocks Baidu from searching its shopping. So that's one way they grew such a huge marketplace, is that they block the search engines from searching. So if you're looking for a product, you have to go straight to Taobao or Tmall. So the answer is yes, they compete with each other today, and then who knows, tomorrow they probably cooperate.
How is Alibaba important to China, the country itself?
Yeah, I think no matter what happens to Alibaba, if they succeed or if they fail, one thing that their legacy will always be is they got e-commerce to really take off when it was really not getting anywhere. And why is that important? Because Alibaba isn't just sort of one company buying and selling products. What they are is a platform that empowers millions of entrepreneurs to set up their own shops. And so, number one, it's given a lot of people a livelihood, creating jobs for entrepreneurs. It's given young people in China an outlet for their dreams. A lot of times in politics or in the arts, there are a lot of limits in China, but entrepreneurship is one place where people can pursue their own destiny. And it's also created more of a meritocracy in China, because on Alibaba's platforms, if you do really well, you get rewarded and your business goes up. But if you cheat people and lie to them, then your business will go down and your ratings will go down. So it's created a more level playing field. So whether or not Alibaba succeeds or fails, I think they've contributed something to China that has a lasting impact beyond what they create themselves.
世界给了我们这个舞台，全球给了我们这个机会，动用所有的智慧、所有的勇气、一切的努力，去帮助1000万家企业生存、成长和发展，创造1亿就业机会，为10亿人提供真正价廉物美的平台。谢谢大家。
เส้นทางสู่ความสำเร็จของอาลีบาบาน่าสนใจนะคะมีหลายบทเรียนที่น่าเรียนรู้ค่ะและถึงแม้ว่าทุกวันนี้จะกลายเป็นบริษัทยักษ์ใหญ่ระดับโลกแล้วก็ตามเชื่อได้เลยละค่ะว่าคุณแจ็คหม่าและทีมงานเองไม่หยุดคิดค่ะที่จะพัฒนาอะไรใหม่ๆออกมาเพื่อที่จะยืนหยัดในสมรภูมิอีคอมเมิร์ซซึ่งทุกวันนี้มีการแข่งขันอย่างดุเดือดค่ะพบกันใหม่สัปดาห์หน้าวันนี้สวัสดีค่ะ